Before we even get started, yeah, I know this series name isn't the most creative thing out there, but you know what? I'm not really that creative of a guy, honestly. This series title might change later, but for now, yeah, this is Stuff Zyraizo Loves About Games, or SZLAG. Catchy, right? If you were around for the super early days of the channel, you might remember Visual Novel Ramblings, where I talked about random concepts in visual novels as opposed to just a singular game. That series also never went beyond 3 episodes, but anyways, Stuff Zyraizo Loves About Games will be the exact same thing, except it'll include all games and not just visual novels. Here, I'll just talk all about some sort of mechanic, concept, or whatever in games that I tend to really like, or maybe even dislike. Visual novels are also included, of course, since I consider them the same as any other game, and many of the ones I do play also have gameplay elements. Together, we can celebrate what I think makes gaming so great, and watch as I fumble in trying to explain my supposed reasoning behind this idea, and why exactly do I like the thing that I do. Aside from just the good, I might also take a look at some of the faults that may come with implementing such an idea for a game, but ultimately, why I love whatever concept we're talking about that day. These are probably gonna be rough in the sense that I've not done any extensive research before making these. Just think of it as a rambling trail of thought that I felt like talking about all of a sudden. Hopefully I'll be making some semblance of sense by the end. Maybe you'll agree or disagree with parts of it, but most of all, I hope you have a good time watching it. Anywho, for the very first entry of SZLAG, let's talk about theme songs. What exactly do I mean by theme songs when talking about a game? Well, a theme song to me represents the game as a whole. For the most part, an opening to a game might be a great indication of a theme song, but it may also just be the star song that plays every time a climactic moment happens in the game. Taking Phoenix Wright for example, we don't remember the first song that plays in the introduction. We remember the moment when Wright hits on that key piece of evidence, slams the table, and points his finger with objection blaring in the background. In other cases, it may be the starting song. Halo's theme is iconic and you hear that the second you hit the title screen. Or the song that plays even before the title screen starts, like in the opening to a visual novel, like say, Dual Savior Justice. A theme song encapsulates the game in a nutshell. When you hear it, you are instantly transported back to that simpler time when you first picked up said game all those years ago. A theme song adds a lot to the game. It sets a tone for what the player will expect when they play the game, whether it be a J-pop anime beat, a blast from a bygone era, or even just a serious mood maker that tells the player from the get-go, we ain't messing around anymore. It can even act as a secret cover-up for the game, where we can pretend we're just looking at some slice of life nonsense, but really, the actual game is a meta horror that peeks up from out of nowhere when you least expect it. Or even that this upbeat song might sound incredibly inappropriate at first, but when it finally hits again way later in the game, you realize that dang, it really does fit. A theme song can even connect a series of unrelated games into feeling like a continuing saga. You see this all the time in longtime franchises like Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest. A theme song can do like 15 different jobs when it's utilized incredibly well. While the bare minimum is that it can exist and sound good, heck, it doesn't even need to do the latter part. It has a potential to be so much more than just that. A crappy theme song is something that just plays randomly in the opening, and that's about it. It doesn't really do anything for a game aside from existing and filling in the space that says, we needed an opening here to waste time. A decent theme song sets the tone for a game, or is maybe just a great listen. I bet you can think of tons of games that you love that have fantastic songs that pop out in your head occasionally. A great theme song can bookend your game. It's something you hear early on during your playthrough, maybe even from the very introduction, and it's the same song that plays at the very ending when our protagonist is facing his or her final battle. Nothing is quite as hype as when all the chips are down, everything looks like it's at its lowest, but then our main character stands back up for one last time, making their final declaration to fight against whatever godly being that stands in their way as the song you heard from way back when kicks into full gear.
俺に力を貸してくれ。行くぜ、神様よ。I'm a huge sucker for just that in general.
the feeling of realization that the journey we started all that time ago, it's finally reaching its climax right here and right now. Still, while you can totally get easy compliments from me for doing such a thing, if I reach the end of a game and you start blasting an instrumental version of the opening song, I'll have a pretty damn good time. I think you can also go beyond just that. For me, an amazing theme song is one that accompanies the player almost in the same way as a party member, like say in a JRPG. It's with you from the very beginning of the game, and throughout your journey across this entirely new universe, this theme song grows and changes, just like the protagonist. In harder bosses with an even sicker beat, there's clearly a use of the main theme woven into this new song. Now, this sort of thing does have an actual term. It's called a leitmotif, and it's the idea of a song having a reoccurring section. This reoccurring section, however, is iconic and thematic enough that even when modified and updated in different forms, listeners can still identify the underlying theme. It can bind a series of different songs into one continuous story, and when done right, it's beautiful to witness. Technically, it's a bit more nuanced than that, but that's enough for our purposes here. Anyways, just imagine, you reach the final boss, everything is quiet, the protagonist makes that final declaration as they always do, and a song pops up. It's something ominous, something menacing. It really brings in that feeling of, this is the final boss, and you're about to get dumpstered. You start the fight unsure of yourself, throwing out attacks, trying to figure out what exactly this enemy does, worried that you might mess up and everyone might perish instantly. But suddenly, the song changes. It's different, triumphant, powerful, yet familiar all the same. It's not quite the same song we've been hearing throughout the game, but just like our hero who has matured throughout our journey, the theme song has as well, and it's here to give you that final push needed to defeat the last foe. The sheer magic of that moment is unrivaled in how damn good it feels. That is what you call a finale that will stick in your mind forever. Am I glorifying theme songs to be way more than they possibly could be? Yeah, probably. It's not like I expect everyone's pants to just get blown off by sheer virtue of how good a single song is, but I also think that theme songs deserve a ton of credit for making a scene. It transforms what just might be a cool moment into a magical experience that will be remembered for years to come. It's like the whole bookend aspect I talked about earlier, but implemented throughout the game, as opposed to just the beginning and end. Do I think every game needs to do this, and is this the best way always? Not at all. I think there are some obvious downsides to trying to incorporate your main theme into many other songs in the game. When done badly, it could end with a soundtrack that honestly sounds very uninspired. You have a bunch of songs that sound kind of samey and not even that good. Having a soundtrack with a ton of banger songs is probably way better than trying to force some sort of weird theming thing into your game. As someone with absolutely no musical talent whatsoever, I imagine it's pretty hard to twist an underlying theme for a game in so many different ways. Honestly, even in games I feel do this well, it's not like every song is part of some divine orchestra crafted by the gods themselves. It's really just like a handful of songs: the opening, the battle theme, field song, boss song, final battle song. Stuff like that all having similar undertones and snippets, but not quite the same, as that would just be lazy. Sounds crazy to imagine, but there are some games out there, especially in gaming of yesteryear, where entire games only have like 2 songs. Video games have come a long way since then. Still, when the stars align and all the different components line up, I can think of nothing more magical than the scene I described earlier. Oddly enough, I've come to realize after talking about theme songs this entire time, I haven't really mentioned anything about character themes, since I was pretty focused on theme songs for the game as opposed to each individual character. In my mind, I consider them different, but honestly, I could definitely see how in many circumstances, they can be one and the same. A character's theme could also be the theme song to a game. And maybe they could be considered so close to each other that there isn't much of a point in making a distinction between them. Still, I think all that discussion can be saved for another day. If you have any favorite theme songs that you want to share, or even if you want to argue as to what exactly is a theme song, feel free to do so down in the comments section. Even the way I'm describing a theme song is really just my own definition of it. I'm sure other people have their own ideas as to what exactly constitutes a theme song to a game. Some might not even have one single song that everyone can agree is the theme song for that one specific game. Probably because music is very subjective, but dang is it fun to talk about, right? Also, if you have any ideas for future concepts to talk about for the next installment of SZLAG, throw them at me as well. I've got some ideas lined up, like multiple perspectives, true endings, but I could always use more. I might even be down to talk about things I dislike as well, although then we have to change the name, right? Not that that would be much of a problem, I guess. Not sure when the next one will come out. I think it's just gonna be whenever I feel like talking about something random. I wanted to do this in the first place because when I talk about games, I try to be fair but critical when tackling them. And I don't always get time to just praise a game for one specific thing. So here's my chance to just ramble on about one topic for as long as I want, without having to worry about covering everything else, and giving a more well-rounded opinion that encompasses all the stuff that I think is more important at the time. Regardless of whether you share the same ideas I have or not, I hope at the very least it was enjoyable and you had a great time listening to me talk about why I love theme songs. If you recall a memory of your own favorite theme song buried deep within you while I was trying to explain that feeling, then that's all I could ask for. All the supportive stuff, like, subscribe, notifications are in the same place as always, and with that, I'll see you later. Till next time.